And this is an EWTN Bookmark Brief. I'm Doug Keck. I just had the pleasure of speaking with J.W. Richards about his book, Eat, Fast, Feast, a Christian guide to fasting, heal your body while feeding your soul. Tell us, Jay, why'd you write this book and what's it about?
Well, I wrote the book because I became convinced, one, that Catholics have quit fasting and we shouldn't have, and we need to take up fasting, or what I call the fasting lifestyle again, not only for spiritual reasons, but for physical reasons. And so I realized that this is something we'd lost as a spiritual practice, but also there's now a huge amount of scientific evidence that fasting is actually good for us physically. And so I wanted to combine both the theology and the history and the latest science on the benefits of fasting.
So does prayer and fasting go together? We remember that from Scripture quite a bit.
Absolutely. In fact, I would argue that prayer is much less effective if it's not paired with fasting. And fasting, to really be all it should be, should also be
And you mentioned the fact that it's something we've kind of lost. You're trying to have us regain it.
Yes.
Why do you think we lost it?
Well, we lost it in part because we got lazy. Fasting does take some work and sacrifice, but also because of what's often called the standard American diet, in which we eat very high amounts of sugar and refined carbohydrates, and we eat very frequently throughout the day. It actually makes it very, very hard to fast. And my argument is that actually we can just make some tweaks over a period of a few weeks, and we can adjust our metabolisms that makes fasting actually really easy to do.
Okay, very good. The book Eat, Fast, Feast by J.W. Richards, available through our EWTN Religious Catalog. EWTNRC.com is a place you can find it. Look for the entire interview coming soon on the network. I'm Doug Keck. This has been a Bookmark Brief. Thanks for stopping by.
Hello, this is Janet Miranda, Executive Director of Priests for Life. Welcome to Just Ask Janet. Well, if you tuned in about a month ago, I had my dear friend Mary Kaminsky on, which she'll be joining me in a moment. And we just showed you, for those who didn't catch the program about a month ago, about this great book, Eat, Fast, and Feast by Jay Richards. And what we just talked about a month ago was getting healthy in the new year. And we promised we would come back to this topic a month later so that we can share how are we doing. So during the program, excuse me, Mary and I want to hear from you. And we'll read your comments as you chime in of how can I fast having to take my medications? We're going to answer that in a minute. But first, let me get Mary here with me. Mary Kaminsky, welcome to the program.
Janet, how are you?
Okay, great. Well, we do have a question. The first question up was, how can I fast when I'm taking medications? Well, first of all, my first piece of advice, and this is from Jewel Hockman Hose, and my answer to you, first of all, is you must consult with your doctor.
Exactly.
Okay? For example, I have a condition called AFib. I'm under the care of a cardiologist. I do take heart medication every morning. I take 3 medications every morning and 1 at night. And I consulted with my cardiologist and I said, well, I'm doing intermittent fasting and I call it a keto light diet. So I'm not hardcore keto, but keto light. And I told him that 1 day a week, I fast for like a day and a half where I don't eat for this longer period of time. And he said to me, Janet, what you're doing is fine. It's not going to affect your heart medicine. It's not going to affect your heart. Yes, you can take that medicine on an empty stomach. But this is why I'm saying for our viewer that asked that question, you need to consult with your own doctor because everyone's condition is different and your ability. And if you can't fast like for a day and a half, you could possibly try what's called the intermittent fasting, which means you try to only eat within an 8-hour period every day. So for example, like tonight after 8 o'clock, or you could pick 9 o'clock, whatever's your number, but 8 o'clock is kind of better. If like, for example, I pick 8 o'clock because by 10 o'clock I'm in bed. You kind of want to stop eating at least 2 hours, right, Mary, before you go to sleep. 2 hours before whatever your normal bedtime is, that should be your stop eating time. So then what I do is, if I stop eating at 8 o'clock, I don't eat breakfast and I wait till lunch times, which could be 12 or 1 o'clock, and I'll eat lunch and then I'll eat a normal dinner and then start that cycle all over again. So I normally do that every single day, except on the weekend. I pick Sunday usually as my feast day. And I just tried back when Mary could tell you, she inspired me back in December. I tried going from Sunday night at 8 o'clock all the way till Tuesday at lunch. And at first I thought I couldn't do it, but I was able to. And my cardiologist said I could still take my heart medicine on an empty stomach as long as I was staying hydrated. And that's what I do. So I hope that answered that person's question. So go ahead, Mary.
Remember, Janet, for those that are joining us for the first time, this is a process. First of all, anytime you change anything in your diet or
Right.
whatever you're doing, you have to consult your doctor that this is good to you. Even doing a keto diet, you should always check that out. But it's a process where we have to almost wean ourselves off sugar, okay, and all the carbohydrates that we've been ingesting. And, we've really been taught that fats are bad. But actually, good fats are really good for you, and along with protein. And they don't have those cravings like sugar does. And that's what we're addicted to now. It's like, eating every few hours because we have these sugar crashes. And that's not how our bodies were designed. We were designed to really go for longer periods of time without eating. Okay, it's actually natural. And what the wonderful thing that Jay Richards talks about in this book, and I highly recommend people do get the book if you're joining us for the first time, is that it's, a detox, a gradual detox of the sugar, the carbohydrates in the keto-like diet, and then you incorporate the fasting. And as Catholics, why are we fasting? Okay, that's a whole nother question that Jay addresses in the book.
Right.
And it's really to help strengthen us spiritually. It's wonderful for prayer. It makes us holy. There's so many benefits spiritually, emotionally, and physically to fasting.
Right. And when you think about it, Mary, we're only about 2 weeks away from Ash Wednesday.
Exactly.
And
right.
so this, this coming into the Lent season would be the perfect time
Right.
to really do serious fasting. Because let's face it, this nonsense now of fasting on Fridays and on Good Friday, two small meals and one bigger meal, that's not fasting.
Right.
That is not fasting.
And most people get what you say to yourselves, I can't get through, okay,
Right.
fasting for Ash Wednesday or Good Friday. I'm starving. Why is that? Okay, that's a signal that something is not right. So wouldn't it be wonderful if you could go the whole day on Good Friday or even Ash Wednesday too without any food, okay? And it's amazing what you can do, okay?
Oh, and Cindy Carrier just say, I guess today's not good, just a half of whoopie pie for me. Okay, Cindy. But see, that's the thing. If you had that sugar today, you can wake up tomorrow and say, you know what, it's good. I'm going to gradually change what's in my cupboard.
Right.
That's what Jay recommends in the book, by the way. He tells you kind of have to get ready to do this. It's a process. So step one is look at all the processed food, excuse me, that you have in your cupboard and start getting rid of it. Meaning, if it's not opened and not used, great time to give it to the food pantry. Right, Mary?
Oh, absolutely. And that's the whole thing. It's a gradual process, getting rid of what's in your refrigerator, getting rid of all the foods that are unhealthy. And then you start to really change the way you're eating. I have a friend that she's really spent the last month just getting off sugar. Okay.
Right.
Each person is individual, and it takes everybody, a certain amount of time to do that. So it may take you, if you just eliminate sugar in your first step, you won't have those cravings, and you start to incorporate many of the healthy fats like avocados and olive oil, even peanut butter and things that we may not necessarily be in our diets right now. But you will start not to crave those whoopie pies, okay? You won't want them. And
That's
it's
right.
amazing, but it's true. Your body is, such a gift, and it really will work if you take care of it. And we really need that today, especially in our world today. We need to be strong physically as well as spiritually.
Well, and the idea too, as we said, Mary, it says eat, fast, and feast. So the concept is you pick that one feast day out of your 7 days for the week, one. And, like, for example, this is Super Bowl. Sunday. So I'm sure a lot of us, even if it's just at home with their own family. And so, okay, maybe that's going to be a feast day, but when you feast, you don't want to go crazy either. Mary, we have another question from Patricia Elston, and she says, does fasting urge the body to hold on to fat?
That's an excellent question.
Excellent question. No, it doesn't.
What this whole thing does is you're burning the fat.
Right.
You're actually, when you're on sugar and carbohydrates, you're burning sugar all the time. That's why you're always hungry. But when you start to switch to more of a keto diet and incorporate the fasting, you will be burning fat. Okay, it's amazing what fasting can do
Right.
for your body.
And the weight will come off slow, and which is good, because if the weight comes off slow, you will keep it off.
Right.
All right. So, for example, when I went to my cardiologist back in September, at that point, I had lost from the beginning of March through the pandemic 15 pounds. And he said, wow, you're the only patient of mine that lost weight during the pandemic so far instead of gain weight. So he's going to see me again this month. Matter of fact, February 19th is my next appointment. And probably by the time I see him, I will have lost another 5 to 7 pounds. And that's from September to now. Because what it means is I'm kind of like bouncing like this, up and down with a few pounds, up and down with a few pounds, and then I take another drop. Then I go within a 2 to 4 pound drop like this, and then I drop again. So, it's coming off slow, but I got rid of that bigger, higher number I was when I got on the scale, and I'm starting to get down and down. And most people say to me now, when they look at my face, they say, oh, Jenna, we see it in your face. It's, right, Mary, you haven't seen me in a while. And just, my face has gotten a little bit thinner. I mean, I still have a muffin top, but it's starting to go down a little. I'm just sticking with it because I feel more energetic.
Yes.
I don't feel like that lethargic. When you have like Thanksgiving meal, let's face it, everybody after Thanksgiving, they just want to take a nap. So whenever you have a big carb-rich meal, did you ever notice how you feel tired after? That's what that does to you. But eating all the fresh fruits, and not fruits, but the greens and the salads and vegetables. I mean, I love vegetables now. I just can't get enough of them. And I have protein. And, once in a while, if I want some pasta, that one day a week, I'll have that little bit of pasta. So I'm not denying myself. But it's not an everyday occurrence. And I'm not having, like last weekend, I had family visiting me here from New York. So last Sunday, I forget even what the main protein was, but I made baked potatoes. And I haven't had a baked potato in such a long time. So I had a baked potato with a little butter and sour cream and chives. But that was my feast day. It tasted so good to me. But, I'm not going to have a potato every single night. And I'm not going to have rice every single night. That's a starch, that's a carbohydrate. So I'll only have that carb on that high carb, I call it the high carbs, on my feast day. So like I already know, for Sunday, I'm going to have the traditional Italian sauce, meatballs, sausages, and I'm going to eat real pasta, okay? Real pasta on Sunday. And a couple glasses of red wine while I'm watching the Super Bowl. But then come Sunday night, I'm going to go into my fasting mode till Tuesday lunch, and I find, Mary, for me personally, it's really helping me a lot to kick myself back on track.
Right. And you tend to, when you don't have those carbs and all that extra sugar in your diet, and you do have a feast, you really enjoy it. Okay.
Right.
You don't tend to eat as much. And then if you're fasting, it's almost like a detox. And another thing that you mentioned, Janet, that's great to point out, mind clarity with fasting. Okay, it's amazing how much, if you're on a fasting routine, how your mind will be a lot clearer. You will have a lot more mental energy, between just as much as physical energy today, and you won't have that brain fog and that lethargic feeling. It really does sharpen, a lot of things in the mind, especially as we get older. So that's another plus for fasting.
That's right. I don't know if anyone else has any questions, or has anybody who watched us 4 weeks ago been doing this and want to tell us how they're doing. We'll just see if our producer gives us any questions. We want to hear from you. So if you have any questions, please pose them or tell us your success story if you have one. Okay, here we go. Jim, I've been keto for 3 years, down 140 pounds since starting. Most of it lost in the first year. So keep on keeping on. It gets easier once it becomes a way of life. That's right, Jim. It does become easier. Like we said, it starts with your cupboard and your refrigerator and your freezer. There's certain foods I never buy because I just don't have them anymore. And the other thing I started to do was I started really reading packages and seeing how many carbs, some of these diet bars or protein bars and some of these, they're loaded with carbohydrates and sugars. But if you're careful and shop for the keto bars, I have one that's only three carbs that if I want a bar once in a blue moon, that's the one I'll go to. But these other ones, they are very, very high. So we have, Mary, another question for Tricia. She says, I've been following the intermittent fasting, which is only eating 8 hours a day. Or do you think, what do you think, or do you think about that? I've been following the intermittent fasting.
Intermittent fasting, like I said, is part
it's part of this. Yeah.
And, you can start off with a window. Again, it's changing your body. In other words, not eating every few hours.
Right.
And really eating in a narrow point of time. So people start out with the 8 hours, and then you can, limit that more to 4 hours to 2 hours, and even go for 24 hours or 48 hours for an additional fast. Okay. And remember, this is not just for physical, for those of us that are Christian or Catholic or really identify, with Christ in any way, it really does unite you to Christ and his suffering, okay? And these are things that maybe we learned as a child or we have not thought about in a long time, but there's so many things, maybe I had a grandmother that always told me, offer it up, Mary, offer it up. And what did that really mean? Okay. So with fasting, it has such spiritual benefits, in addition to the physical benefits. And that's really another great thing going into the Lenten season. Maybe this can be something that you can start to try to incorporate in your life. And it will really bring you a lot of extra grace that you may not be experiencing right now.
Well, and when you think about it, I know down in New Orleans, where they have the Mardi Gras, Tuesday, the day before Ash Wednesday, is called Fat Tuesday. And the concept here is that is your feast day, so to speak, because you're going to be entering the Lenten season. And I know in New Orleans, they start celebrating Mardi Gras. For them is like Mardi Gras for them starts on the Feast of the Three Kings and goes all the way to Fat Tuesday. And they have these king cakes. I was actually in New Orleans this time last year. I was there speaking for a trip. And they said, oh, yes, Janet, Mardi Gras is just not one day here. It's a season, 6 weeks. I mean, they decorate their homes with the colors of green and purple and gold. And it's a whole big thing. But she said that's because then we're going to enter spiritually into a true Lent. And so you might want to think, if you want to get going and starting on this, that's the perfect thing. Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday, that's your feast day. And then get up on Ash Wednesday and say, you know what? I'm going to fast all day. And then on Thursday, see if you could get up and not have breakfast and make it to lunch. If you have, then wonderful. You just did it and didn't even realize it. The other thing can help motivate you is say you're going to fast for a special intention. That's a spiritual component. So like Mary and I, we have a friend who's battling cancer right now. So when the first time we were trying this, we said, when it was getting tough, we kind of text each other and mentor each other. So that's the other thing too. You can have a buddy that you're doing it with and you kind of encourage each other. So we offered it up for this person. And then what helped me get through it was, well, they're suffering going through chemo and radiation. Do you think I could not shove something in my mouth right now and ask God to help heal them? So sometimes if you have a motivation of who you're offering up spiritually the fasting for, that can help you get through it. And we have another question here, Mary. Phyllis wants to know, I'm diabetic and we are told to eat 3 meals a day. I really need to lose weight, but I'm afraid of fasting. And again, Phyllis, this is a question of talk to your doctor.
I'd also like to point out to Phyllis too, it's good to do your own research as well, especially
Right.
if you're suffering from diabetes. And in the book, the foreword was written by a Dr. Jason Fung, okay? And he's the author of the Obesity Code and also the Diabetes Code, okay? So these are medical doctors. And a lot of times our, medical doctors are not well versed on nutrition, okay? So sometimes if you go in and get your own information and really read a lot and then present it to your doctor, how do I lose weight? Okay, is this something that might be good for me? And of course, again, like Janet said, we're not doctors at all, but you have to do today a lot of research on your own.
That's right.
Really read a lot nutritionally, because we've been taught again by this pyramid, and it's really not correct. So again,
The pyramid needs to go reversed, opposite.
right.
So-
So many of us are sugar addicted.
Right. And one more thing about doctors, and Mary and I, we puzzle about this all the time. It is a known fact that cancer thrives on an acidic environment, meaning your blood and sugar and all that is acidic, not alkaline. And cancer also feeds on sugar.
Right.
So I said to Mary recently, because like I said, we've got a couple of friends who are battling cancer right now. And I said to her, do you think any oncologists have ever given a diet to their patients? You don't hear of that, do you? And I said, why not? Because that's one way you can help fight the cancer. Starve it. Don't feed it sugar. Cancer is like a Pac-Man. Remember that Pac-Man? That's how cancer is with sugar. And so carbohydrates have sugars in them. If you're battling with cancer right now, get the sugar out of your diet and carbs as much as possible, because then your chemo and radiation will be more successful. Wouldn't you say, Mary?
Yes, exactly. Right.
Yeah. And so what Mary's saying, see, about doctors is not all doctors believe in natural methods and natural nutrition. They focus on, my mother, God rest her soul, if she left her doctor's appointment without a script in her hand, it wasn't a good visit. Okay. And unfortunately, too many doctors are too quick to just write you a script and send you on your way. When sometimes you could be taking natural supplements, you can be eating healthier, and some of that will begin to correct what's going wrong in your body. I can tell you with me that I've been switching my lifestyle over like this over the past 10 months gradually, that I'm feeling better. My joints, like I was getting a lot of aches and pains, they're diminishing. They're not all gone 100%, but I can feel a marked improvement in how I feel each and every day. I'm sleeping better, even though I have a sleep apnea and I sleep with a CPAP machine. I find now when I put my head on the pillow, I go right to sleep.
And at some point you may, depending on how much weight you lose, you may get off that sleep apnea machine.
That's right.
I mean, I started this journey because my family has a lot of cancer. And so I thought to myself, well, what can I do? Should I wait until I get cancer? Or what can I do from a nutrition standpoint to really correct those things? And you just start reading and reading and reading and
Right.
and talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's the thing. And I think there's a question up here now. Our food
Yeah.
is full of pesticide and hormones. And that's absolutely right.
Absolutely right. But you can get around that. So
Right.
like, for example, I shop a lot in BJ's and also Publix down here in Florida. So I buy at BJ's, I go every once a week and I get my supplies for the week, my fresh veggies and salad things. So I buy the organic romaine lettuce. So I buy organic as much as is possible within a certain reasonable amount of money. Okay. With fish, don't buy farm raised fish. Buy wild caught only. That's another hint. So if you look in the freezer section, and a lot of stores, like if you go to Touch Salmon, just because it says Alaskan doesn't mean it's good. What the difference is, it must say wild, the word wild, not farm raised. So don't buy any fish that's farm raised. because then it might have hormones and who knows whatever else in it. If it's wild caught, then you're getting fresh. And the same thing goes, with all the other kind of products you buy. Eat organic and clean as much as possible. Okay, it doesn't mean everything, but as much as you can.
Is it real food, or was it coming out of a box or a container?
Right, that's right. Wild caught. That's right, Angela. Wild caught fish only. And like I said, it's really true. And you know what? When you go to a restaurant and they have fish on the menu, if it doesn't say wild caught, I ask.
I do too.
And if they say to me, like, oh no, the salmon, oh, it's Alaskan salmon, and I'll say, but is it wild caught or farm raised? And usually the server has to go away and find out for me. They come back, and if they say it's wild caught, I say, okay, then I'll take the salmon. But if they say farm raised, I'll go back to the menu and I'll pick something totally different. So, and I'm not saying every single time, but if you begin doing this, you will begin to getting as much of the chemicals out of your system, away from yourself, and do it to whatever extent you can do. Look at it this way. Maybe you can't be 100% organic because the cost is too much for you, but do it as much as you possibly can. And if you look around, a lot of those big stores like Costco, BJ's, they're bringing in a bigger and bigger selection of organic food because it's demand. If you notice now in the stores, there's more keto products that are coming. Why? More people are switching to keto. So in time, we're going to have, I think, even more at our disposal, organic things, here's another thing. When they say what to decide if you can't get everything organic. Well, someone once told me if it grows below the ground, try to get organic as much as possible. Like I buy organic celery, okay, because if you get the regular celery, it's not as good. I buy organic sweet potatoes when I can. I haven't found good organic white potatoes, but I'm not eating that much of that stuff anyway. But I'm just giving you some examples of how I kind of try to shop to the best of my ability whenever I can.
This is not a diet. This is a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle.
Changes within your lifestyle.
Right.
Also incorporating exercise and all those other things.
Right.
But we have to look at today. When we grew up, everything was on a farm. A lot of the vegetables are grown in hothouses now. Things are, totally different. The meat's processed, cold cuts, all that kind of stuff. So we have to say to ourselves, how can we make changes and, eat a healthier, diet and lifestyle? Yeah. Also lose weight, that's the main thing you need to look at.
The main thing is when you go shopping this weekend for your groceries, when you pick up something off of that grocery shelf, turn the box around and read. See how much sugar and carbohydrates are in that product. You'll be shocked. And you're going to take it and go, oops, I'm not getting that now. I mean, if something has 25 carbs in it, all right, and very little dietary fiber, because that's the other thing you do. So you take the carbohydrates and you look at the dietary fiber, you subtract the dietary fiber from the carbs, and then you know what's the true carb intake of that product. Just start reading your packages and you will be surprised. Some things that you thought were, oh, this is good for me. It's the carbs, which means the carbs turn into sugar, which is all part of the stuff that's not good for you. Right, ma'am?
Exactly, right.
All right, let's see, do we have any more questions? Or has anyone started to try this since we were talking about it 4 weeks ago? Are there any success stories out there that they want to tell us, or struggles? Oh, okay, here, Carolyn, very good, Carolyn Messina. She says, try to check also sodium count. That's correct. If something is, I always tend to buy, like when I buy bone broth, I always buy the low sodium bone broth. And by the way, bone broth as opposed to regular broth, bone broth is better for you because it's made with the bones. Like you think about, why is chicken soup good for us when we're sick? Because grandma used to put the whole chicken in the soup with all the bones. Exactly. Okay, and it's the bones that have the glycine in them, which is good for your joints. So when you're just getting broth, you don't know if you're getting really the good stuff with the bones. So that's why I've switched over. Someone gave me that hint. and I buy only now chicken bone broth, beef bone broth to use in my recipes. Okay, Angela has something. Why is everyone worried about not getting sick? Eating so much processed food, getting health care, and don't worry about the food we're eating. Well, yeah, I mean, right now, of course, with COVID-19, everyone is very frightened. Everyone knows someone who's died from COVID just about now. And if you are afraid of getting sick with COVID, the one way to diminish your chances of getting COVID, besides, mask wearing and hand washing and hand sanitizer, is a healthy diet, because that will boost up your immune system, and that's why, if you notice, the people who are getting severely ill with COVID and dying are people who have underlying health conditions, people who are extremely obese, because their immune system is suppressed. So doing what we're doing right now and talking about this stuff and switching your lifestyle is almost helping to prevent you from, it's not a guarantee, but it diminishes the chances of you getting COVID-19.
It's something that you're taking proactive action in your own life, and that's the whole point of this. Okay? Right. What can we do, to make ourselves feel better and sleep better, and and also for our spiritual lives.
Right.
We help ourselves.
And I find that because I'm doing this, I've spent now less time watching TV, less time and more prayer time. For the new year, I'm doing the Ascension Bible study with Father, come on, Mary, what's his name?
Mike Schmitz. Yeah.
Mike Schmitz, that's it. Father Mike Schmitz. Yeah, I'm reading my Bible I'm on a challenge this year to read the whole Bible in 365 days. So that's one practice I've done. You'll be surprised, when you do this mental shift of trying to get your act together, both physically and spiritually. It gets easier and easier as the weeks and days and months go on. So we just want to encourage you again, like I said, because this book, the Eat, Fast, and Feast, you can get it at the EWTN Religious Catalog or on Amazon. And really, because Jay Richards, he's a Catholic, so there's a lot of, good Catholic spirituality and he talks about, in biblical times, how fasting was just part of their DNA. They lived like that. And when you think about it, most of our forefathers, they were farmers and stuff like that. They got up early in the morning. They're out in the fields. They don't eat all day until they come home and they have a meal at the end of the day, right? When they're done in the fields, then they would eat their meals. So they weren't coming in for lunch for a snack. They kept working out in the field all day long, right, Mary? I mean, that was life. But here's one way Jay says to get your closet ready. So he says, here's your groceries to buy. Natural fats like olive oil, coconut oil, butter, lard, avocado oil, peanut oil, and heavy cream. Imagine that, you can have heavy cream. Meat and protein, eggs, salmon, sardines. Chicken, including the dark meat and the skin. Pork, including fatty portions. Sausage, make sure it's low in sugar. Now, that's the key with the sausage, Mary, because I was looking at some sausages. You really have to turn the package over and see what's in those sausages, because he's right. Some of them have too much sodium and too much sugar. So just let the buyer beware. Of course, he says lean, no ground beef, no leaner than 85%. Okay, steak. And for vegetables, here's the list of good vegetables. I get hungry, Mary, just reading this. Spinach, bok choy, broccoli, asparagus, lettuce, kale, celery, Brussels sprouts, zucchini, leeks, peppers, onions, watercress, cauliflower, green beans, snow peas, artichokes, cucumbers, tomatoes, avocados, and olives. Now, if that doesn't make your mouth water, it makes mine.
Right.
So this is what we're talking about. It's eating clean, green, and healthy. Okay, it says, where can we get the book? Okay, Phyllis, you can get the book at the EWTN Religious Catalog if you want to help EWTN out, or you can go to Amazon. I prefer going to EWTN.com. I think it's EWTN.com/RC for Religious Catalog, but just go to their main website. There's a link there to their Religious Catalog, and Eat, Fast, and Feast by Jay Richards.
And it's an easy book. It's a very easy book to read.
It's easy to read.
Right.
Easy.
It's an easy program. Very
Right.
good. Right.
Here, I'll even read you I got mine here, Mary. Let's see. Okay, so here's how the book starts. Clearing the path, okay? So he starts here's the chapter titles, Getting Ready to Do This. How and why Christians used to fast. So he gives you some of the history. Why we quit fasting. So he talks about, as a society, why fasting went out the window. Fasting doesn't have to be hard. He tells us how you can get into it and why it won't be too difficult. And then he talks about why fasting isn't bad for you. Using fat for fuel. And it says stumbling into fasting and prepping for success. And that's just the first part of the book. Then he goes week 1, week 2, week 3. He takes you week by week, how to delve into this. Right. Now listen, some of you might say, well, Janet, I can't dive in hardcore the whole thing. So what? Do as much as you can. Right. Even some of these principles are better than probably what you're doing now, which is probably nil to nothing. You're not paying attention to what you're eating and trying to stay healthy. I have to tell you, since I've been doing this, thanks be to God, I can't remember the last time I've had a cold or sick or anything. I'm really feeling really good. Mm-hmm. And like I said, my cardiologist is very pleased with my numbers. And to me, the proof is in the pudding because I'm not eating the pudding.
Exactly.
So any more questions? Let's see. Oh, nope. I think we're at the end of our time here, Mary. My gosh, we actually went a little over. So, but it was important, I think, to get all the questions in that people had burning on their minds, right? So
get the book for Lent.
Get the book for Lent. It would be a great start. And what we'll do is maybe we'll come back after Lent, after Easter, and we'll ask how everyone did during Lent. Okay, so let's make this a good Lent together. Eat, fast, feast, and God bless you all. Thank you for joining us. This is Janet Marana, Executive Director of Priests for Life. Until next time on Just Ask Janet. God bless.